hopefully everything's good with my audio levels here. And we can keep going from yesterday's live stream to this one. I'd like to add a little bit of a design here. We didn't have a screen shown in terms of what we would show if someone tries to put in the wrong URL, nor did we have the URL specified here. So I'm going to add these two things here. So I'm going to copy this here as the URL, and where URLs matter, I'm going to kind of have them above the screens. If you want to use a fancier layout, you can have, I guess, a browser window around this thing and do that. So, but for now, we're not going to. We will just, I guess, let's see here. How do we do this? Get some shapes. Add this. Put this in, and of course, just let's format this correctly. So we want this to be left, and sure, make this a little bit bigger here. And then the style, we don't want a line. We just want this to be up here. If that's correct. When I have to specify a new UI piece, obviously I can't do it down here in these given wendens. I have to do it up here. So we'll just stretch this model out a bit. So let's do that. Let's close some of these things like your shapes, etc. So again, this is our application that we're modeling and implementing at the same time. So all the green boxes is something that already works and is developed. But here we need to specify just what happens when someone tries to go in with a URL that doesn't, sorry, with a conference ID that doesn't exist. So let's show how that works. I need to move these to the right to make more room for these. So I'll just move them over. I think that should be good enough there. And I already did this. I'm going to copy this progress bar here. Oops. That this is the progress. I'm going to copy and paste this and then move it over to here and shrink this down, and then I'm going to copy this here. I don't know what this guy's doing. Delete that. So now I want to copy this entire thing here, and okay, why does the copy Control-C not work every time I select something? Control-C. Now Control-V. Okay, good. So that's copied. That's on the event model, yes. To check that the progress is, yeah, on the right one. And copy this one. Oh, I see, it's a little long. Copy that, and then paste that, and then move it over. And here we want to show that it's the wrong address. So I don't want to make it kind of obvious. With the text. Where's the background? Okay, font color, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I think I have to actually double click this stuff, and here, background color. I want this to be this red so that we know that it's wrong, and then just give it some other number. And here we want to have you know, wrong. Spell that right, wrong. And I'm sorry, you might not be able to read what I'm doing here. So I have conference doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. And of course, in this case, we don't have the register and all that. It's just an error page. If we do that, so there's no state change here. We don't have to display anything. We might have, we have the name, but we also have this linked up here. So we do use this. And so, yeah, here we do use this. That's good. That shows where the information comes from. And it shows that depending on the contents of this, we either show this or this on the URL. So I think people get what's going on here. You know, this is someone else trying to do this. I might move it to a different swim lane, but you know, the same user could try this. I could also move it in front of this one and just have it as one. You know, actually that's better. Let's just have it as one slice and just reverse the order of these. So, you know, they might try to type in the URL and they get it wrong because they read the number, you know, they read the URL wrong or whatever. So let's move this out of the way here, and then we'll do the correct way of doing things and move it over to the right. Okay, so that's them doing it correctly. But now this we will do incorrectly, right? So if they, let's say this is a realistic situation, they manually type in the URL because they're too lazy to use their camera on their phone to scan the QR code. And so they thought they could do it this way, and it ends in tears. So just move this over a bit. There. Okay, so that's a little bit better, right? Again, this is already implemented, so this is one slice. It's really part of doing the work for both of these. So again, we only charge for individual green boxes. Yeah, other iterations of them aren't important. So now that that's done, I can save this and work on this last one here, and then hopefully get to the close registration as well. So we have to allow the participant to register and then to close the registration. And I think that's all we could do for today. We're going to have a lot more fun in these next ones where we're actually suggesting topics. And that'll be done tomorrow. But for now, let's get ahead to these ones. So this is again in the progress layer. Control and copy that. And so we want to close the registration. We may do some tests as we get through it, just for fun. I actually like the way the tests work in event modeling, how we set up different scenarios here. So we'll perhaps try to do that for both of these. Let me at least expand it to kind of show that I kind of want to work on some of these. You know, maybe we can do them now. So, you know, we could say that we already registered. If someone clicks register again, they get an error like, hey, no, where is you registered? But let's actually get into the implementation and try that. Again, this participant registration flow is now all the way here. right? And I guess this whole participant portal management is, you know, now extends to here, and the whole conference setup extends to here. And topic suggestion is kind of a new area. So that'll be good. That's for the next day. So let's see what we can do here. And I'm happy to write out the tests in code first and then translate them here, or vice versa. We can specify these tests here. That depends if you're, you know, the scenario where you would do this in code first is where, like, okay, developers, you kind of understood what we talked about in this session. Go back, write your tests, and fill in this here. Or it could be the other way around, where you know, business is quite specific, and the business is going to draw out the different edge cases here of how they want this handled when someone tries to, you know, register twice or whatever. They'll do it here, and then this will be looked at by developers and implemented. So that's the other way of looking at it. So participant registration. One more thing. I don't think. Yeah, we want this moved over. Time here. Okay, that goes over here, and then this goes over here. I don't know why that's lower, but let's move it up a bit. That looks fairly well aligned. Okay, so the yellow things are, the yellow rectangles here are areas that we haven't developed yet. It's a little bit too high, so move that down. So yeah, yellow means in progress, and these ones are the ones that are done, right? So on yesterday's stream, we showed how these URLs show that you know, you got the wrong URL versus here where, you know, you actually scan the QR code from whatever the organizer showed, and then here we continue with the participant registration, and what is this? This is set sign up URL, and then of course a very short workflow here. We could copy this and move it over and just call this workflow here closing registration. It's a simple step, just, you know, one screen with one button. But we still want to, if someone's searching for keywords on this thing, they want to be able to show that this is, yeah, it's not participant registration, but close registration. Right, so that's fairly descriptive. If someone's reading kind of like, you know, what's going on across the top here, they really see what's going on. They're not guessing as to what the system does, right? So yeah, here we go. And okay, so that's a good plan for what we're gonna do today. And I will now switch to our branch management here, and cd minus, and we will commit this. Okay, first of all, gotta save that drawing. And now here we will say updated design to show wrong registration URL. Started next slices. Okay, and so we do that. And Now we can check out that branch for this, which would be the state change register. Right, so we can go ahead and start our work with git checkout -b, and we can do last time we had state view, now we have state change register. It's a node and starts from start 3. That's fine. And then we can show, we can basically get the code from this slice, because this slice has this UI and I want to reuse the UI. So I guess we could just take out the yeah, it's good to actually have that in here. So those have to share the same UI, so I might as well check it out. So git checkout, and we want to do the last. So we want the state view register node, but from that node we want views, and we want register. And it gets register that mustache. Okay, get status. Okay, so we got the view that we want to use here from this slice that's already done. So we have that. We really don't need anything else. So let's go ahead and get into the code. So that's for the IDs. And join conference. Yeah, that's good. Actually, I'm wondering if this is refreshed. App.js. Okay, so yeah, this is from the last sprint. We still have that. So now we do app get register with ID. We do have that. But now we really want the app post. And here we really want, yeah, participant name. Okay, so it kind of knows what it's doing here. And it actually doesn't know what it's doing here. We want to we kind of want to redirect somewhere else right after we register. So let's delete all this, because after a successful post, we want to redirect. And of course here, to redirect to registration success. That would do. There, that's good though. So we have a command here. And then we would have to try, right? In fact, I don't think we need a command object. Well, I guess we do if we want to test it. So, right, so we go register command, get events, register command. Yeah, that looks good. We do need to have a try. I do want this always to be split. So I do want things that are so if we have a problem here, and we want this to be a 400 error, that there was some issue in processing. I don't know if I have the HTTP code that's correct for this. We could probably ask ChatGPT what's the proper one. But yeah, here we want to try pushing the event to store it. And this would be let. We want let register. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that we want to do. And then here we want res status send, blah, blah, blah. Okay. That's good. And push event, try catch. And this is the 500 because that's like out of, like, we can't store it because we don't have enough file space. Oh, is Mohammed back? Yes, he is. Okay. Good to see you, Mohammed. Joining the stream again. I don't know. I guess I'm streaming at the right time for you. So, what are we talking about here? Let's see. I want to take some time to answer people's questions, especially when they're live here. Where's my cursor? Okay. What are the basic units of your system? Vertical slices or modules? By unit, I mean something that can be developed independently. Vertical slice, but they are very fine-grained. Yeah, they are fine-grained, not very fine-grained. Mind you, a lot of stuff, I was just on a call with someone else before this live stream, and the traditional stuff of having a single assert for each test in your unit tests is a lot more fine-grained than what we're doing here. It looks very fine-grained because I'm doing this on purpose. If I go to my event model and show you that all of this setup here in terms of you know, specifying the name of the conference, setting the dates, adding, you know, even adding the rooms, but just setting the name and setting the dates could be one screen, right? In fact, adding rooms and adding time slots, you know, this whole workflow here, that could be done in one screen, and I could have a more elaborate set of given when thens under here. That might even be easier because we're not going from page to page, and we could just do some good validation on the whole thing at once. So it could be more coarsely grained. And this is the advantage of event modeling, is that you can basically have a discussion with your client, with the business people in your organization about, you know, is this too granular? How are we breaking this down? And do you want to put stuff into, you know, one screen instead? And we can do that as an exercise, right? Yes, I'm doing this in a very fine-grained way because it provides me with simpler examples to show the concepts. But it realistically, yeah, we have in real life some of these slices are quite involved. They can take a significant amount of time to develop, right? Let alone discuss them for a public audience like I'm doing right here. So, you know, here, these two things shouldn't take too long, but we'll see. We're also experimenting with Git, the branching strategy, explaining why event sourcing is the way it is, all sorts of things. So, yeah, I hope that that you're kind of getting that background information as well. But yeah, very fine-grained. Also, how does event modeling related to bounded context and subdomains in DDD? Yeah, that's absolutely. We use that a lot in DDD. So, the problem with this system is that we only have, you know, one swim lane, and these swim lanes in the bottom here. So basically, this row here, this bottom row where all the events are, that's considered one swim lane. And that would be one bounded context or one subsystem if you're not doing DDD, right? So I have an ability to kind of map event modeling to whatever approach you're using. And if you're using domain-driven design, these rows, so these swim lanes, rows of all these events can be tied to a bounded context, for example. And or they can even be subdivided further to show your aggregates. So if you're using aggregates in domain-driven design, you can have a swim lane with sub-swim lanes inside. So where you have certain aggregates represented by all the events that happen to just that one aggregate being in one single row. So you can totally organize this in that way. What doesn't move at all is the in and sort of the input and output, the watermark, the water level of like when we go in and out of the system. And I don't know where this came from. Let's get rid of that. So the blue and green boxes are always at the same level. They show kind of the system's thinking of when information goes in the system, when information comes out of the system. That's the job of these. But here we have the swim lanes, and there is no swim lanes below that. All of these other things here are the testing scenarios. So the given when-thens. Right, we can move those down a little bit further. Just to make it clear. Now they live down here. And of course, this one went down here as well. Oops. Z. Move this guy back up here. Okay, because he belongs on this level. I could have more visual guides for this, like just to have some lines that are horizontal to kind of show that these live, in a swim lane. I could definitely have that. But for now, the convention's pretty good. You can see that all of these exist in a single bounded context. If you're using domain-driven design, sure, they can all be part of the same conference. But we could also start to break this up into separate bounded contexts where topic suggestions may be something that's separate domain, and deal with it that way. It's really up to you. Again, there's no right answer. This is about organizing your information flow. It's you're totally free to organize your room in whatever way you want when you're designing your apartment or your house. You have all of that. So yeah. Hello, Vengeance, and says I can't read that. Anyway, so yeah, nice to see more people join the stream. So let's continue on with the implementation. And I want to. What do we want to do? Oh yeah, we wanted to see if this registration is actually going to have the proper statuses. So I don't know if I'm using the 500 and 400 status correctly. So if we have a business problem, like I'm trying to register twice, we should probably have that. So I don't know why this is not giving me the error message here. And error message, right? And I don't really want the rest of that. I don't know why the session is in here. We know that this is from the URL, so I don't want to repeat it here. You can see it in the URL. At least you can go back and see it if you don't. But we can also ask ChatGPT about, this whole thing here, and add it to chat. And I don't know, it's been years since I read the HTTP codes. So are these the correct HTTP status codes for each situation. I mean, that's kind of cool that we can ask that. Oh, see, so there's a 422 unprocessable entity. That's pretty neat. So I don't know about 422. Kept 500, right? Success case. Added 201. Created is more appropriate than 200. This is very helpful, see? Very, very nice. Yeah, I like that. So I don't want to paste all that in. I'm just going to manually add them in because that's pretty cool. So that actually was helpful. Might ignore the 201 in the readout, but it's still good practice to specify it. Sure, why not? If this is really good, this internal server error, you probably don't want to divulge for security reasons why something failed internally. So yeah, keep it plain 500 is probably what you want. You're going to have console errors, and if you have some logging on the server side, sure, you might want to report that error there. And this is actually bad. I don't want to show that message. That's actually bad. I do want to show something went wrong. And here, we also don't want to show an internal error. At least I don't think. We don't want to leak implementation. All right, we want to see it on the console and internal logs, but we don't want to see that. Yeah, definitely, Mohammed. That's a very good point. I do like. So what I like AI for is saving me time from Googling a bunch of stuff for hours on end. Right? It certainly would be a much more boring stream if you saw me have to Google everything. So having the error codes explained. I definitely know I can find that information by using a Google search very quickly. But then to parse it and read it and all that. Deal with the ads that are on the results page when you search these days. That's something that's just in the way. So this is much better. And yeah, I can do 422 here. So yeah, this looks a lot nicer now for being able to handle this situation. Yeah. And so that I think gets this thing registered. I just want to make sure that that this runs correctly. So we have the get and that here, which is, why do we have the get? Did we implement that ourselves, or did we pull that out of the last app thing? Anyway, let's give it a go and see if update cursor. Oh man, I want to, but not now. So we're good with that. Let's just see how we run right now. Let's see what our events are in our current stream. So we have a conference set up. I can see that in our events. Okay, that's good. So let's try join the conference. Okay, so we have that as our URL. So we're going to copy that and we're going to pretend that I'm a participant doing that. Oh, welcome. Okay, register. Atom register. Cannot post register. Okay, well that's a problem. Where's our post? Post register /ID. Okay, so I think this is a point in time where we decide whether we carry the ID through the URLs from now on. So, you know, if we have, do we want to carry that burden all the way through, or do we have, you know, maybe we do. So yeah, if we don't have ID, we can just check the ID all the time, right? So the post should have an ID. Question is, can the form, I don't know if that's possible. Can the form submit the, it's a question for the, probably not. So I want to ask it how, what? Really? It can? Okay, well, I knew that. That's a... Yeah, I think this is what... that good? That means we have to have the conference ID passed in every time. Which is okay, I guess. I mean, that should do it. I kind of like this. It's cleaner. So let's just apply that. And I guess once we have, you know, we didn't need a conference ID when we're doing the setup, because that's the setup, that's for the organizers. But now that we have participants and this ID is kind of secret, we want to do that. So let's break this, for example. So we added this change to have this. Then, oh, the other thing is we don't have the upload thing. No. Multer none. That's it. Keep forgetting that. So these posts don't work unless you have that. That we have there. Conference name, session ID. I think we need conference ID. Yeah, I don't know why we're passing the session. We dropped the session, the idea of a session. So that's good. We can just keep passing this around like that, which is good. Okay, conference ID, and then post. We should be able to get the ID. And here we have to we actually have to put in the conference ID here. Type register command name, and then we need the conference ID. Okay. And here's where we need to show the various places where it's okay to register, which means when the yeah, so we're gonna have to show a whole bunch of places where it fails. So we could go back to the design and just specify it there, because yeah, we definitely want to make sure that we have an event that shows that a register command. Where is our register command? Did that get added at the bottom? We just don't have it, right? Why is register command? Huh. We don't have that, but it's not highlighting as not being there. Okay. So why is this not being used when I do register command? Why is this looking like we don't have it? Register commands being used here. Get events and then register command. Oh, because of this name. I think it's register state change. Okay, that should do it. Yeah, I think the name was clashing here. That's why I was thrown off. Okay, that's good. Now, of course, we want to immediately say that, you know, we need to find we want to make sure that currently we are. What events do we care about? That we have a registration, that we have a current conference, and that we don't have registration closed. So we need to look at filtered const filtered history, register command, event type, in, and I'll let the and this would be registered event. And here we will have conference closed event, registration closed. Okay. And so we need to have, what's the situation that we care? So what events do we have? We care whether it's closed. We care that we have one. So, okay, if the last one is I hate having nested if statements, but having no history at all is bad as well. So here's where we have an idea of, we're discussing dynamically bound contexts. And so now I want to refine the state that I want to talk about. So I guess I would just reduce the filtered history. And even though I might not even need to reduce the filtered history, I might just reduce all of the history, and the top part will be the filtration. So, and I guess a lot of people are, so we can do registration state, right? And then here we will let's just have a couple of, okay, so we have here a history reduce. Okay, I like that. And we have this switch statement. So registration closed event, registration case registered event, right? And then default. Do we have default? Default, yeah. Just ignores it. That's fine. The other thing that we want to make sure we have is the current conference ID, right? Case conference. Conference started. It's generated. Unique ID event generated. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. And then we want to say ID equals event dot conference ID. Registered event, we want to make sure that we haven't registered ourselves before. So we have a registered event in our history. We want to make sure that the event.name doesn't equal the command name. So the other problem is that I guess we kind of do need a session, because I could just keep registering different names for myself, and I kind of want to have my session. So okay, we have to kind of go back to the idea of a session and maybe pass that around instead of conference ID. So we have this join conference. And so let's go back to the design, how we're going to do this. So here we are able to register. And when we register, okay, so we do have a session ID here. So I think in my previous I think that's why we had the session in here. But can we get away with that here? So I guess once we register, we have a session. And that's, I guess, why we have the session ID here. So I don't know why we had the session ID displayed here, because it's before the registration. I think it's Oh, I know why. Because we wanted the session ID to be visible or generated on the client side. I think I recall the design decision to have that, so it's easy to inject as the command here. Nothing server side would need to generate the session ID, but like who cares? Just do it server side. There's no session yet until you register, and then once you're registered, then you actually get the session ID embedded in there. So yeah. So I'm wondering, we could probably support re-registering yourself if you mistyped your name, because we can keep the session there. What is a refined bounded context? Oh, it's not a refined bounded context. Dynamic bounded context is the idea. So it's called DBC, and it's been discussed on Discord quite a bit. It's basically ignoring the idea of an aggregate from domain-driven design, meaning that a typical aggregate would be something like an order. And then you would have all events to do with an order, like add item, increase quantity, change shipping address, whatever. All those things, all those events would be associated events for storing that state would be in one row as an aggregate. What we're talking about now is sharing events between different concepts. So this idea that you have a boundary around an aggregate goes away, and that you redefine what your boundary is, what's in scope, which events are in scope and out of scope, depending on the use case, instead of having a hard limit as to what's involved there. So hopefully that'll make sense. We can play around with that concept with this project and others. So let's just get through this implementation, because we actually want to create a session, right? So const session ID, and we don't have that in the request. We want this to be UUID7, whatever. That's it. And then in here, register command, conference ID, and we want the session in here too. That's the session that they're using. Again, this whole thing goes away if we do proper authentication and all that, using something, more robust and industry standard. But for now, this is, I think, good enough. And when we do the success, we now do the session ID, right? So that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. So every single thing now will just have the session passed on, and we can start to filter on anything that's been done within the session. Yeah. Otherwise, we could use the person's name as something that's unique, but then people can guess each other's name and all that. So I think this is better. Other participants won't know what the session IDs are of the other ones. So then we want to do that, registration, unique ID, event name. Okay. And if we don't have something with the session, right? Instead of the session ID doesn't equal command session ID, right? And that's null. Okay, so now we have registration. Registration is closed. Registered is false, and ID is null, right? Okay, so now we can think of the different scenarios upon which this will. Why is this function here? Oh, okay. I guess we could just return that. Oh, yeah, register state change, right? So that's our registration state, and say if you're already registered. Why would this come up? Registration state. They would really. I guess that's fine. I don't know how this errors, how we would get into this state, but let's just let it float for now. And then we return registered event. Yes. With conference ID is, yes, that. Session ID, yes. That's the name that we registered at, and the timestamp is, yeah, that's kind of when we did it. So here's another question, right? Like, do we use the timestamp from the command, or do we create a new one ourselves? Do we track both? We could. It's no big deal. But let's go with this for now. And then let's add the tests. So, because we want to show how, these can kind of happen. So, we are looking ahead at the event model, right? Knowing that we have this ability to close the registration, we have to know that obviously these registrations can fail. So some people are asking whether it's okay to look ahead as to what can happen, and absolutely it is. And I can show that error later here. So I can add, another one of these, screens over here, and show the message for, what it would look like if someone's try to register once something's closed. So yeah, that's but notice how easy it is to just, not look at a particular status flag in a table. I just look for the existence of an event that says, hey, do we have a closed event? All right, it's closed then. That's it. What'll be interesting is when we start to add tests for running more of these like in a row, you'll see that there's like, okay, once we close the registration, creating a new conference ID doesn't matter because we want to filter these for events that have to do with this current one. So for example, here, we have to be more careful because, if this conference ID, if ACK ID is equal to the event.conference ID, is not equal to the conference ID, so it's closing a previous event, right? Then what we have here is a break, because we don't need to worry about previous conferences being closed. Okay, so I'm going to continue with this. I think this is too much to do in one day, or I may come back later and to finish this up. So, Mohammed joined us again, and thank you so much for the intelligent questions about how this relates to domain-driven design. I think I just have to break for dinner, and after that, I'll come back and finish this. So, again, thanks for joining, and we'll see you. Just double checking about any other questions on the Discord chat. Again, if you're watching this after I've gone off the stream, post the question in Discord on the live stream channel, and I'll get to it. So yeah, if you're around, probably gonna hop back in about an hour or so to finish this up, because it's quite fun. Once this gets going, you can see how we can continue on slice by slice and keep iterating and moving forward in the solution sort of redesigning when we can. Hopefully we get most of the design done properly in the first, before we start the project, but we can always refine, right? So this is hopefully giving an idea of how to manage projects a little bit better. And the tests that we'll write, we'll put in here as well, so that we can see, how both of these registration and the closing the registration time window by the organizers works, and then we'll give it a go and try out the software. So hope to see you in an hour or so. I'm gonna go eat, and I'll be back later. If you're not gonna join me, then hopefully you can catch the recording and follow along in your own time. So again, thanks.